Hello again, everybody, and welcome to our latest SwampCast. It's been a while for Robbie and I, since our last one was, I guess, after the Michigan debacle for the Florida Gators.
Seems like about 6 months ago.
It does. But, of course, Robbie, spring is on the air.
Yeah,
so.
That was a headline in our paper once.
That's right. I thought you'd enjoy that.
Not spring is in the air, it's on the air.
Spring is on the air. But as a result, Florida is playing its spring game on Saturday. I don't think anybody expects too much out of this. But you've been out to all the practices, Robbie. What's your general feeling about the way the Gators have looked in the spring?
Well, Pat, the number one concern, I think, was defense, secondary, especially after the bowl game. And I think early in practice, I said, this secondary still can't cover. And then gradually I've seen the cornerbacks have come up, safeties have played well. I think Vance Bedford's done a great job with the corners, Heater with the safeties. I think they're the most improved area on the team. If you talk to Coach Meyer, he says the same thing. But he also said that the front end's got to get a little bit better to help them out a little bit more.
They've got to be able to pressure if they're going to be any good in the secondary, because you can only cover for so long. And I know he liked the way what Carlos Dunlap has been able to do. But, you haven't heard a whole lot about the defensive lineman other than Torrey Davis getting kicked out of practice. Yeah,
and they're still young up front. You're looking at John Brown, a redshirt freshman, and Troy Epps is a junior college kid who's trying to get used to this level of play. But defensive line has a chance to get a lot better, and it's going to have to get better. It's going to have to come up with a better pass rush, or they're going to have some similar problems as they had a year ago.
Well, I've said all along, if Florida's just average on defense, they'll have a chance to win the SEC and the national title next year. They don't have to be great, but they can't be bad, which they were at times last year.
Yeah, and it got to the point where they couldn't hold leads, and they were giving up 30-something points when they lost games. That just kind of isn't Florida defense, especially after 2 years ago when they dominated the way they did.
On the other side of the ball, you were telling me early in practice that Tebow's throwing nothing but end-over-end passes.
He was throwing ducks. It was like shoot him, but he's definitely been working on getting his motion back down. He's throwing a lot better now here in the last week or two.
Yeah, it only depends on how he does in the fall.
Yeah.
But, and you know what he can do. Obviously, you're not going to see a whole lot of him on Saturday, although he will play, but with the red jersey on.
Yeah, they need to let him kind of sit and let the other two quarterbacks kind of figure out where they're going to line up when two-a-days begin in August. And I know that Cameron Newton had a chance to really lock down that number 2 job maybe because John Brantley was limited, but I think they're pretty even right now, even though Brantley hasn't played a whole lot.
Well, it'll be interesting to see my guy, Deontay Thompson, who last year when the practices we were in, I went, wow, this guy's going to be something, and then didn't play all year for whatever reason. And now, from everything we're hearing, Robbie, and what I watched a little bit of, is having a tremendous spring again.
Yeah, people were wondering who was going to replace Andre Caldwell. He looks like a clone to me in terms of speed. I think he's even a little bit smoother than Andre, has better hands. And a lot of people were thinking Carl Moore is going to step in and be the next impact guy. But I think if it follows form from the spring, it's Deontay Thompson's going to be the next big-time playmaker on that offense.
Well, one thing I talked to Urban about Carl Moore the other day, because Robbie kept saying, I don't see a burst. And
I see a possession receiver.
Yeah, that's what he looks like. But Meyer said, I've seen that burst. I just haven't seen it out here because he's sinking too much. So you wonder if he's going to be able to deal with that. And, as Emmanuel Moody's still struggling to get the offense.
Even though I think in the last few days, I think the speed has come there for Moody. I think he's starting to grasp what he's doing, and now he's starting to make plays.
Once it slows down for him, he can still be a great player. And it's funny, I was talking to Tommy Tuberville today for a story I'm doing, and he said, why does Florida not have a tailback? I'm like, isn't that everybody wants that question? Everybody wonders.
They got plenty. They're loaded.
Yeah, they got
all
tons
over the
of
place.
them. They just need somebody to step forward. And I still think Keyston Moore is not a guy to count out, Robbie.
No, but I think that he's a hard worker, a team player, and I've seen some good things at him this spring, and I think there's a good chance he'll line up first in the first game. But I'm telling you, Brandon James is going to play, Chris Rainey is going to play, Moody's going to play. It's going to be tailback by committee, I would imagine. I think you're going to see a lot more big plays out of that position. And one thing I've noticed too with Rainey and James, they're throwing the ball downfield to the running backs now. And doing it effectively, you sent Keyston Moore out wide and it was just to occupy a guy. Now they're throwing to the running backs down the field.
I'd be interested in looking up their numbers from last year and last 2 years, really, of throwing the ball to the tailbacks. Not very often.
No.
There's no question. Well, of the guys who enrolled early, let's take Carl Moore out of the mix because he's a JUCO guy, and we talked about him already. But of the guys who've enrolled early and are in school and are participating in the spring but have never played for Florida, who has stood out the most to you? Who do you think has caught your eye?
Well, the guy that's caught my eye, it's caught the coach's eye, Janoris Jenkins, the cornerback from Pahokee. He's going to play a lot this year on defense. So I think he's really helped with the competition there at cornerback. He's going to play a lot. And I think Troy Epps has a chance to start inside on the defensive line. He's done a lot of good things as well.
Well, it'll be interesting to see. And, of course, it's still a long ways away until the first game against Hawaii in the Swamp. We're looking forward to that, but a long way to go to get to that. Saturday, Robbie, the orange and blue games, is there anything you're really looking for, or is it just kind of a glorified practice?
I think you're looking for a quick game, and I think Meyer's going to sit a lot of veterans, and you're going to see a lot of the young guys. He mentioned that last year he kind of set it up so Lewis Murphy could have a big day because he had done so well in practice. There's going to be a guy like that, a young guy that's going to have a chance to shine because a lot of young guys are going to be playing.
Yeah, I think that that's what you'll see, and that's what you see pretty much all around the country. There are exceptions. For example, at Texas, they played number ones versus number ones because they're very young, and they wanted to see how they would respond. Other places, at Auburn, for example, Robbie, Tommy Tuberville has a practice a few days after their spring game, and that's the one that really counts. Yeah. That's where they go hard. So you never know. Everybody kind of looks at spring a little bit differently, but game plan will be here. I talked to Corso. He said he's not putting the helmet.
Game day.
He's not putting the
I was wondering what he would do.
He's not putting the Albert on. He said. I said, well, you'll go 1-1, right? You can't lose. Yeah. Well, you can lose, but you can't win. Well, you can win, but you can't win.
But also, you talk about the spring game. What it's about. It's more now with all these big crowds. You have to entertain them a little bit. So you set it up so the offense looks pretty good, and keep people entertained. And now with ESPN here, you're going to do stuff to entertain the TV audience as well.
Exactly.
So Meyer even said that earlier in the week the most important scrimmage of the spring is going to take place. So it won't be on Saturday.
Well, and I think that one thing that you have there too is you got recruits in.
Yeah.
So you want to show them what a great time and a happy.
Yeah, give them a little
shiny, happy. Yeah. Oh, isn't it great here at Florida? And we don't take it too seriously.
No. What I like is the running clock in the second half gets you out of there.
Yes, and of course it's going to be a big weekend. You can check out our other SwampCast, I guess you would call it, with Brandon Zimmerman and myself if you're curious about all the craziness that's going on in Gainesville, Florida this weekend. We'll talk about that there as well. And Robbie, I guess you and I will do our next one probably from Birmingham, maybe. I don't know.
Oh, yeah, definitely Birmingham. That'll be here before you know it, though. I always look forward to that.
It will be here before we know it. That's the way it goes. But we'll look forward to it then. Until next time, Pat Dooley, sports columnist of the Gainesville Sun, Robbie Andreu, Gator beat writer for the Gainesville Sun, saying so long from the Sunshine State.